Now that we finally have a release date with Insomniac's Wolverine, I ended up realizing something. All of these years later, I actually never played X-Men Origins, which is called one of the best movie licensed games out there that ended up being better than the movie it was based on. So before Insomniac takes their shot at Logan, I wanted to find out if X-Men Origins really deserved the praise he got back in 2009. And after playing it for the first time, now I get it. So let's go ahead and talk X-Men Origins Wolverine. The version that I'm looking at is the Uncaged Edition, and the first thing that I can say right away is how brutal this game is. Like, they do not hold back on the violence at all, and seeing Logan just go through waves of enemies like it's nothing, it's something that to me holds up even today. And it's impossible to talk about the combat without mentioning the regenerating system. Every time Logan gets blown apart, I would just stop for a second and just watch everything grow back. I don't know why, I just thought it was cool. So he basically has two health bars. The first one goes down when he takes damage, just tearing through his skin, exposing muscle and bone. It looks brutal, but it's also really cool to watch. And if you keep taking damage, his heart meter starts going down too, and if that reaches 0, game over. The cool part is that whenever you stop taking damage, you can actually watch Logan heal in real time, and even after all of these years, that is still impressive. But the combat is the highlight of the game, giving that DMC / God of War vibes while doing its own thing. The combat does feel satisfying, just lunging into enemies, grabbing, parrying, and launching enemies into the air. That was so cool and satisfying to execute. You can actually just button mash your way through some encounters, but some enemies do force you to change that approach. You have enemies like the Goliaths that, besides looking like a knockoff version of Doom Guy, requires you to go around his shield before bringing in the pain. Another example are these cloaked soldiers that you can only see using Wolverine's feral senses. You can still attack without it, but you'll be mostly guessing where they are the whole time. And these guys, they think they're slick too. Like on this section, they were all just standing still, just waiting for me to go by like I wasn't gonna notice them, but that didn't last really long. It's not just to be able to see enemies, it actually works on the environment too. Think of it like Batman's detective mode from the Arkham games, just a little less blue. You can also see hazards around the level, and it will even highlight paths that you're supposed to take, which you're actually gonna need once in a while since the game doesn't really make it that obvious in a lot of sections where you're supposed to be going next. The combat does make things interesting too, adding the rage meter that fills up over time, and you can execute some really fun abilities like the claw spin and the berserker, just to name a few. And they become handy too, especially when you upgrade them, because this game loves throwing a bunch of enemies at you at the same time. And even later sections where these droids can take a lot of damage, so the abilities are appreciated and keeps combat fresh throughout the game. And to top it all off, the environmental finishers are crazy. You can impale enemies on spikes and walls, or if you don't feel like fighting anyone, just launch them into the void. There is so many ways here to handle enemies, the effort to keep things fresh is appreciated. But even with all of that, combat can definitely feel repetitive after a while. And there's some encounters that can get frustrating too. Like this section right here, it really got under my skin because I was supposed to counter these missiles and launch it back at the enemies. I know I'm pressing the right button. The game knows I'm pressing it. Even Logan knows I'm pressing it. But every now and then, the game decides when it works and when it doesn't want to work. But besides those annoyances, the combat is fun and makes me feel like Wolverine, and I gotta give him that, even if it becomes more frustrating than fun in later sections. And if you mix it up together with the story, that's where things get interesting. If you play back on the PS3 and 360 era, movie tie-in games usually meant that it was a low-effort cash grab just to capitalize on the next popular movie release. And only a handful actually made a decent effort to give us a good game, while others I just regret giving them my money all the way up to today. I'm looking at you, Rambo, but Wolverine is one of the few to get it right, and I do agree the story on the game is better than the movie. The setup is basically the same. Logan is part of the Team X under Stryker, eventually gets tired of all of the killing, leaving everything behind and just settling down with Kayla, just trying to have a normal life. But a normal life is something that Logan never gets to have for some reason. After Kayla's death, he goes on a revenge quest that eventually leads him straight into the Weapon X program, where he gets the adamantium skeleton his known for today. Now, the story itself is not the deepest thing out there, but it does a good job giving context to all of the violence and just pushing Logan forward to his revenge mission. I also like seeing some of the characters get a little more time to shine compared to the movie, like Rafe, or what I like to call him, Johnny Gat. The character is cool and he was still voiced by will.i.am, which is a nice touch. And let's be real, nobody's playing X-Men Origins for some deep emotional narrative. You're here for the combat. What surprised me though is how much Raven software added outside the movie. You get entire levels and encounters that either were not on the film or they were massively expanded in the game. You go through jungles, military facilities, labs, and one of the craziest fights against Sentinel. Visually, the Sentinel fight is still impressive for a 2009 game. Now, gameplay-wise, that's another story. Because man, trying to dodge all of the obstacles while trying to reach him on the second phase was driving me insane. One mistake and you will get knocked all the way back to do it again. The fight looked cool, but it was frustrating. Come on. Come on, again? Come on, are you kidding me right now? No! Okay, that was frustrating, but when the fight was over, I was glad that it was over. The fight was cool, but frustrating. And that happened to me a lot throughout the playthrough. Every time something felt dated, the game always found a way to pull me back in. Sabretooth gets a lot more spotlight in the game too, and he feels like an actual threat. His boss fights ended up being one of the best parts in the game, even if I got impaled here. This right here is the first time I realized Logan could actually be impaled like that too, not just the enemies, and that completely caught me off guard. Gambit also gets a pretty cool section in New Orleans, including one of the best fights in the game right on top of this sign, until he decided to glitch right here on me. I had to retry the whole fight over again. That was annoying, but the fight was cool, so I didn't mind too much. Weapon 11 on the other hand, as the final boss fight, he did not do much for me. I had way more fun fighting Sabretooth, Gambit, and even the Sentinel fight earlier in the game. The fight in the movie left a lot to be desired, and the game just followed on the same premise. The fight felt completely underwhelming, which it made me wonder which one was worse. Was it the one in the movie or the one in the game? I'll be honest with you, probably the one in the game. Oh, this was bad. The only good thing to come out of this eventually was Deadpool, so I guess it worked out at the end. The story is not the star of the show though, Logan is. And even though it's not the main focus, I enjoyed the story more than I was expecting to. Definitely way more than the movie. And seeing Hugh Jackman return to voice Wolverine on the game was just a huge plus in my book. As we know, movie license games just grab someone that kinda sounds like the main guy and call it a day, or sometimes they don't even bother to give any lines at all. I'm actually very glad they kept Jackman for the role. Something else I wanna mention though is the level design. It can get repetitive. Origins is linear all the way through, but you can still find some cool things along the way. You can find dog tags for XP and Wolverine little figures that unlock challenges and unlock the classic suits. The challenges are really nothing special, just fight another Wolverine and that's it. The challenges are underwhelming, but I used the customs throughout most of the game, even if they didn't carry into the cutscenes. It was distracting seeing Logan go back to his default custom than the classic one. Suit, no suit. Suit, no suit. But I mean, it looked cool nonetheless. The graphics look okay for 2009. Has it aged perfectly? Not even close, but you can see the age in some environments, the cutscenes, and when there's a lot going on, the frame rate drops like a tank. I guess a 30 frames per second game really did not help back in the day. And then I look at the Wii, the PS2, and the PSP version, and personally, I will not even torrent those. The Uncaged Edition is definitely the best version to play the game. The game took me about 8 to 10 hours to finish, and honestly, that's really not that bad. The game doesn't overstay its welcome, and if it's something you want to play today, that is completely up to you. If you got the money to throw away, you can definitely find some copies on eBay. Is the game worth playing today? Absolutely. Should you be spending $200 on a copy? Not even close. But if you already own it, you want to revisit, or if you got other means to play for the first time, it's a game you should definitely consider adding to the backlog. I can see why many people call this one of the best movie license games out there. It's not perfect and it definitely shows its age, but it's definitely a fun time to have. And now that I played this one, I'm curious to see what Insomniac is going to bring to the table. And after seeing what the shows so far in the state of play, I am more than ready for September. And now that I play Origins, I finally have something to compare it against. Will Insomniac deliver? I guess we'll find out soon. But now I see why people praise X-Men Origins Wolverine so much. The game hasn't aged gracefully, but after playing for myself after 16 years, one thing is clear. The game knows how to make you feel like Wolverine. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for sticking around. Like and subscribe for more videos like this. Have a fantastic night and take care.